Now, it's also the case, since I became governor during the first Trump administration, I worked with the president to say, listen, can you tell the Corps to try to mitigate these discharges and have, because all the Corps was focused on is what the water level is, if it's a possibility of flood, they just discharge. Well, you can manage the lake differently to try to prevent from being in that situation to begin with. And to their credit, they did do that. And so you've had way fewer discharges since 2019 than you did in the preceding years. Part of it is because we're doing this infrastructure stuff that's come online, but part of it is that the Corps under the first Trump administration did manage it differently and I think more appropriately. So that brings us to where we are today. We have incredible momentum. We've had incredible accomplishments on these very important initiatives. And this is something that I've worked with leaders in both the House and the Senate for years to be able to advance. Members of the legislature, all year in Southwest Florida, all your House members have embraced these projects, have campaigned on it, and have talked about how this is something that's really, really important for Florida. There seemed to be, almost unanimous agreement that this was something that was good. There wasn't unanimous at first when I started it, but then by the time we did, people realized, because they saw the benefits and the public really appreciated that we were putting our money where our mouth is and making sure we were getting the job done. And so that brings us now to today. The legislature is currently in session, and they are working on their budget. Both in House and Senate have already submitted budget. I submitted my budget in February, and my budget called to continue the momentum of Everglades restoration and water quality. We proposed over $800 million, which is a record for that, $805 million. The Senate has basically agreed with that and is on board for what we're looking. And so I want to thank President Albritton, the member of the Senate, who stood up and said, yeah, let's continue the momentum. Unfortunately, the Florida House of Representatives has proposed a budget that slashes Everglades funding and water quality efforts by almost $500 million, almost $500 million in reductions that they're putting into this budget. They didn't campaign on that. They didn't tell you that this is something that they were going to do. They're just doing it. And a lot of the reason they're doing it is because the leadership in the House of Representatives has taken a position that if I'm for something, that it's their view to just oppose us, just in a knee-jerk fashion. Oh, the governor always gets his way. We don't want to give the governor any wins. That's kind of how these people think. Shouldn't you be doing what's right for the people of Florida? Stop playing your petty games. Stand up and do what's right. Do what the people asked us to do. Continue the momentum and stop with this silliness. They even in their budget defunded key aspects of the Florida Highway Patrol. I highlighted this last week. They wanted to slash almost 90 positions from our Florida Highway Patrol. They defunded body armor for the Florida Highway Patrol. And they did other things that will make the people of Florida less safe. And we called them on it. A lot of people were very frustrated. And what some of the members say, oh, you're mischaracterizing the budget process. Understand what they're telling you. They're admitting that their budget isn't worth anything. They're admitting that all this stuff is just, I don't know, is it just fluff? Is it for show? Why are you doing that? Why are you trying to defund the Highway Patrol positions? Why are you the first House over the last 6 years? They've never tried to do this before. No Senate has ever tried to do this before over the last 6, 7 years. This is what the Florida House is doing. It is not right. What they're doing is wrong. And this is one of so many other things where their agenda is not your agenda. Their agenda is not what the people voted for. Their whole agenda really represents a revolt against the voters that sent them there. All they had to do was continue the momentum, continue the success, build off what had come before you, and instead they submit a budget where they're trying to totally sabotage all the efforts that we have with Everglades restoration. And they'll try to say, oh, there's money sitting there that's not being used. That's not true. The Water Management District, and Chauncey can talk about this, their fiscal year ends a different time than the state. It ends at September 30th. And so all this stuff is obligated. It's all being put into work, and all these projects are being moved forward. The South Florida District has moved this stuff forward quicker than anybody thought possible. It's not easy to do all this stuff, and they're doing it. So slashing Everglades restoration funding is not the right way to go about it. That's not the only thing they're doing. So last year, under the leadership of your Senator Kathleen Passidomo and my friend, she created a framework where 96% of the Seminole Tribe compact revenue would go to fund water quality improvement, infrastructure, and the continued acquisition and management of Florida's conservation lands. The deal was to basically continue the momentum that we have done. And it's not just, our momentum on Everglades restoration is great. I'm proud of it. We are leaving a very important legacy to our kids and grandkids by taking on these initiatives. But we've also created the Florida Wildlife Corridor. I mean, I don't want the state of Florida to be one big concrete slab someday. I want to be able to protect this, and Kathleen led the effort on that, and we've been able to put so much land into conservation in this really nice corridor, and it's kind of like Florida's version of Central Park. It just spans hundreds of miles, and it's good. So we've done so much stuff with this. So that was what was signed in the law. That was what the legislature passed. Now the House wants to undo that, and they want to redirect the money into just general revenue, which they'll basically use for their own pet projects. Now, when this stuff is not tended to, we know what ends up happening. You start to see the discharges have impact. You see erosion. You see all these different things that have happened. I mean, we've put a lot of resources into fortifying coastline and doing things that have really made a difference. They want to turn their back on that. So what I would tell people is that what you voted for? Did you vote to stop and sabotage the progress that we've made with Everglades restoration? And look, if that's what you wanted, if that's what you thought you were getting when you sent folks to the Florida House of Representatives, look, we can agree to disagree. I mean, that's life, right? Not everyone has to agree with me on this stuff. But I don't think that's what they told you they were going to do. I think they told you, and I think they understandably took credit for being a part of these great initiatives, and now all of a sudden in the House's budget they're just going to turn their back on those initiatives. That is not right. That is not the way you do business. So this is their budget. I know it doesn't get as much attention. I know people focus more on Washington, and I understand there's a lot going on there, but this is something that is just outright wrong. So I'm thankful to have been able to put forth a budget that continues the momentum, that continues us fulfilling our promise to leave this state to God better than we found it. And I'm thankful that the Senate in Florida has stepped up to the plate to answer the call as well. The House of Representatives has not been willing to do that, but on so many issues, they have just gone AWOL. They are not doing anything to address my call for property tax relief. They are not doing anything, or have not done anything yet, to alleviate the condo crisis that was created by legislation that they passed several years ago, and they're not doing what people are expecting them to do. And a lot of what they're trying to do is to try to undo a lot of the good work that's been done in recent years, and that's not what they told you they were going to do. So I'm thankful for everyone that's been a part of this fight. It's not easy to have done all that's been done. We kind of were, I think some people just thought it was on autopilot, that of course everyone's going to continue to do that. Florida it's a great success story to have gotten these projects started and completed in such quick time. You see the water flow, you see the results, but yet there's some folks that are wanting to turn back. We're not going to turn back. We're going to keep the momentum going. So let's get this done. Let's have a budget that actually reflects the priorities of the people of Florida. And with that, I'm going to invite up some other speakers